Kia ora, and welcome to this very first edition of Life Journeys NZ. We're here on location in Auckland. Today is the 26th of October 2017. We hope to bring you influential guests from New Zealand and beyond. Our very first guest is the Honourable Hone Harawira, former parliamentarian and three-term member of the New Zealand Parliament. Hone's name is also synonymous with social activism and Maori indigenous rights. My Maori language is limited, but I want to say Tihe Maori ora, and welcome to the show.
Kia ora.
Now, I just want to briefly go over the format of the interview. The first part has standard questions for all guests, and we're looking at things from a lifespan and identity formation perspective. The second part addresses topical issues. The interview is generally not edited, but guests can pass any question. So let's get started. So let's start from the beginning. Can you share with us a special memory from your childhood? A special place, a special person, a special memory that you fondly remember from your childhood?
Not a special event per se, but we're not our dad. He wired up every room in our house and put a speaker into every room in our house and connected it to a radio, which was in his room. This was back in the 50s. It meant that every morning we could wake up to music. He was very musical. We had a piano, guitar, ukulele, drums, all sorts of things like that. And so we had music around us all the time. He went to the Second World War. Sometimes his mates used to come around and sing old Italian songs, etc., etc. But yeah, I always remember my dad singing to us, singing with us, and just, yeah, a really positive musical background to our upbringing.
And you have that special bond too with your father and...
Yeah, well, that's something I'll always remember about him. He's passed away quite some time ago, but yeah, it was a very special memory, for me anyway.
So did
also remember getting knocked over by the ram up at my granddad's.
Wow. Yes.
I remember falling off a truck and having to go to hospital. I remember crashing my bike. All of the things that young boys do.
Yeah.
But in terms of a really pleasant memory, it's that, my dad and his music.
So did you end up learning an instrument or?
Well, my brother learned to play the piano like my father.
Yeah.
I learned to play the guitar.
Yeah.
Like most Maori do, apparently. I'm not especially good at it, but yeah, I can play.
Okay. Now, the next question is a big one. It's a very serious one, and that is, how do you want to be remembered after you pass on? How do you know?
I guess as a person who was prepared to speak out for change and prepared to lead change. I think some people would like change but don't want to say it in case they upset other people. Other people who like to talk about change but aren't prepared to do anything about it. I like to think I'd be remembered for somebody who not only spoke out for change but was prepared to play my role in leading that change as well.
So change and being vocal and expressing...
Well, you can't. Change in a collective sense requires you making your statement about what needs to happen and then encouraging people to come on board with what needs to be done. So, I recognise there's leadership of many types, leading from the back, etc., etc. But in the world of activism and in the world of leadership, I think you have to be a strong leader, a strong presenter of opinions, and a strong leader of those opinions as well.
Okay. Now the next question is that if you have a child or a grandchild and they're about to embark on this journey that we call life, what is the most important advice you would give them?
Don't be like your grandfather. No, I guess be Maori, because all of my grandchildren will be Maori. To be Maori, to be humble, and to be strong. You know, whether you're going to be good at anything is entirely up to you, but I want you to walk with your head up as a Maori. I want you to be humble in company, but I want you to be strong in your opinions, strong in your actions, strong in your beliefs.
So it's an interesting combination, strength and humbleness.
Well, I think probably the classic exponent of that is Nelson Mandela, an incredibly humble man, but a great leader. I met Mandela when he was here in Auckland, and I got the chance to go up and shake his hand and hongi him. And as I got closer to him, you could almost feel the aura around him, you know, kind of godlike. And I don't even remember what I said to him. I was so overcome by the occasion, but he just seemed like a really nice man. But clearly he was more than just a nice man. He was a great leader. So yeah, humility and courage and strength and leadership can certainly go hand in hand.
You know, you mentioned being Maori, and this brings us to our identity type.
Sure.
And we're still in that section where we ask standard questions for all guests. Now, from a cultural perspective, what is the essence of being Maori? How would you condense that? If we have an audience watching we have a wide audience, and yes, how would you describe that?
I think to be Maori means to learn to speak Maori. It's not just to assume you are Maori because you are descended from Maori. I think you have to learn the language so that you understand who you are, where you are, and where you're going in the language of your ancestors. I think that that's an integral part of being Maori. And I think once you understand that role in Maori, I think it gives you a better sense of who you are and your place in the world.
Yes, because a language is also a vehicle for the history, the symbols.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, the final question in the first part is, can you tell us a time, can you pick a single time when you felt very proud as a New Zealander, you know, like emotionally proud? And it could be before you were a politician, you know, just
sure. I mean, I guess as a New Zealander, I'd probably say being part of the Springbok Tour protests.
That was the one in 1981. Yeah.
When we stood together with many other people of all different races, creeds and colours in opposition to apartheid in South Africa. But for us as Maori, opposition to apartheid in South Africa, but racism here at home as well. But we stood alongside one another, and I was really proud to be a New Zealander in that sense, if you know what I mean. More than just Maori, more than just a son of the Pacific, but a New Zealander. I know that might sound strange, being in a very controversial kind of a situation, but I think it was good to be seen to be standing up for something that was right, even though a lot of people ended up getting their heads cracked, and other people ended up in jail, and some people ended up with both. But still, at the end of the day, it was something I was really proud of.
Okay.
It's a strange one, I suppose.
Well, I think it was a major chapter in New Zealand history. You cannot talk about New Zealand history without talking about those events.
Here we go.
Well, let's see. I actually
tricky
wanted...
ones.
No, you made me think about another person in Maori history, and
Sure.
if you want to talk to us a little bit about her, because we have a global audience.
Sure.
Fini Cooper.
Right.
Okay. Now, why was she remarkable? Now, I know the basics. She was a, leader. She was 70 plus years old with a walking stick, and she was committed to do that march. And
Fini Cooper was remarkable because she was remarkable even before the land march.
Right.
She was leading Maori women in the 50s. She created the Maori Women's Welfare League, where Maori women came together at local level, at regional level, at national level to try to push issues which were important to Maori women and to Maori families. She was very, very old school. She was a beautiful speaker of the reo. Very dictatorial was Fini. But in a very Maori way, in a very chiefly way. She had expectations of what needed to be done. I didn't always agree with it, and she was often telling me off, but you couldn't help but respect her for her strength and for her absolute love for things Maori. That's what I liked about Fini. We got arrested trying to stop her and Graham Latimer getting their knighthoods conferred upon them at the treaty of at the Waitangi Marae. But for all of that, I still have great respect for her, for Fini.
Thank you. Okay, so that ends our first section,
Sure.
and we start with the topical questions. Now, we cannot talk to Hone without thinking about controversies, and everyone knows that you're passionate about social and indigenous issues, but over the years you have made a few statements that even many of your supporters thought were controversial, sometimes cringeworthy or even offensive. So looking back, are there any for which you think maybe you should have phrased things differently?
Hell no. I wish that all of my comments had been managed by the Maori media, because I think the white media in this country is bloody racist, deeply racist, and will attack a Maori for something and try to destroy that Maori while allowing a white man to get off. Like in a classic example, most recently, and not to do with me, Matiria Tude, leader of the Green Party, made comments about how she'd benefited from social welfare back 20 years ago and hadn't paid it back. She was absolutely scorched by the mainstream media, destroyed by the mainstream media, belittled by the mainstream media, to a point where she was forced to resign her position within the Green Party. On the other hand, the Minister of Finance in the national government admitted to charging Parliament for the use of his house for year after year after year, and taking money from Parliament for that house when he was living somewhere else, doing exactly the same as Matiria, and yet essentially was a light smack on the hand that he got, quickly forgotten, and he went on to go from Minister of Finance to become Prime Minister. We have a deeply racist mainstream media in this country, and that's a classic example of it. And all of the comments that are attributed to me as being controversial, and perhaps I shouldn't have made them, about, for example, my daughter's being married to Pākehā, I made a statement which was condemned by mainstream media, but applauded by the drivers of the taxis out at Auckland Airport, come from Pakistan, from India, Iraq, Iran, who said they too would love their children to marry their own rather than somebody else. So they understood it. The white media chose not to, chose to use that as a reason to attack me. They used a comment I made about Osama bin Laden, which was purely in Maori. It was a farewell to Osama bin Laden, and they misinterpreted that to be, I support Osama bin Laden. I don't support Osama bin Laden, but they misinterpreted it as that, and then the mainstream media trotted it out time after time after time in a very nasty and vicious way. So I know how nasty and racist and mean-spirited is the mainstream media in this country. I don't resign from my comments. I simply wish that I'd had Maori media there to present those comments in a Maori way.
Now, we have used the term racist, the R word, that's a big term.
Not in this country, it's not. It's
I think that most New Zealanders are really committed to what we have in New Zealand, and that is a binational country, in the sense that we have a national narrative, and it also combines the Maori narrative.
Look.
And we really...
Let me just clarify some of that narrative. 180 years after the signing of the Treaty of Waitangi, Maori are at the bottom of the ladder in terms of welfare, in terms of housing, in terms of justice, in terms of education, and in terms of employment. The absolute bottom. And justice, and prison statistics. The absolute bottom. So, I don't give a shit what the narrative says. That's the reality in which we live. Now, you can assume that we are naturally bad and therefore we deserve to be at the bottom, or you can assume rightly that there's something wrong at the core of our society. And if you want to know another set of statistics, and you can always check this out. A Maori boy and a white boy walking down the street at night in Auckland, South Auckland, the Maori boy will be more likely to be stopped. The Maori boy will be more likely to be questioned. The Maori boy will be more likely to be arrested, be more likely to be taken to the police station, be charged, go to court, get convicted, and get a longer sentence than a white boy. Now that's not because Hone Harawira says so. That's because the statistics say so. Now if that's the case, it's because we have a society that does not treat us as equals. We have a racist society which controls the media and controls society in a way that they can demonize one sector of the population while allowing another sector to flourish.
So maybe what you were referring to is what is called unconscious bias. When you were
Hell no.
Right.
I'm calling it deep-seated racism. Institutionalized racism.
Yes. Well,
here's another one. You list all of the judges in this country, right? And you'll find that on average, beyond average, they will have sentenced Maori people to more punitive sentences than white people. Do you know what I mean? That's hardly unconscious. I mean, these guys are well-educated lawyers and judges. So I don't buy this unconscious stuff.
Okay. That was a full-on answer. I think most of the New Zealanders that I've met, there's really an appreciation. What I want to say is that in New Zealand we're really light years ahead when it comes to incorporating that indigenous component in our national narrative. Every country has a national narrative, and if you compare New Zealand to other countries, we are proud, regardless of we're Maori or not. We're proud that, for example, Maori is an official language, and that there has been a revival in Maori.
Guess what?
Yeah.
The indigenous people that I think most of are the ones I'm closest to. In Australia, here, say Hawaii, United States. And I haven't checked the statistics lately, but I guarantee you, in terms of housing, employment, justice, education, employment, and welfare, they will be at the bottom. I guarantee you that. So, it's also true, from my point of view, that regardless of what people might think about the narrative, racism is deep-seated and well-spread. Sorry to ruin your interview, but that's how I see it.
No. It's maybe you brought up some questions that we will just